Welcome back everyone. For this guide, I will be explaining to you about something called chips. Chips are used to boost up your gear with better stats. Before I begin, I will go ahead and tell you the items you will need first so you can check if you have them. I will explain what they are used for later. Colored drivers, platinum drivers, origin chips, new chip boxes, modification tool, a gate fragment, and origin negates, and of course, chromatic phase essence. Now, what exactly are chips? Chips are basically used as sockets in your gear. These chips make your gear much stronger than it already was. These chips increase things like your attack speed, air, back, or chase attacks, and many more traits that are beneficial to your character. If you played during the earlier days of closers, you'll notice the chip difference in stats is a dramatic comparison in a positive way towards your equipment. It's so much better than before. For the new chip system, you no longer have to go to the machine to set it up. What you do now is different. If you're wondering how to use this, simply press semicolon on your keyboard or press escape to go to the menu and press the chip icon. Here you will see a menu. As you can see here, you'll notice 6 tabs on the top. Click on the top right where the question mark is. The description for each tab is listed here. But before I go about each tab, you must know that any gear piece below level 83 is not able to have chips in the slots. In order to access the chips, you need to be sure that that's the main character you will play, as well as the gear pieces you want. Just so you are aware, colorless chips are completely useless. Feel free to keep it in your inventory as collection or simply discard it. Either way, it doesn't matter. If you played during the old days, you should have things like yellow colored driver, new chip boxes, and so on. I strongly suggest to keep those chip boxes. Do not sell them. As for the drivers, platinum boxes, and so on, use them. The drivers will be used by going to the craft machine and selecting item renovation type. You will be able to convert any old related item to the current one you will use now. If you're confused over on how to use the new drivers, do not worry, as I will continue on to explain them. If you played during the old time you're in luck. If you have chip boxes called new, red, yellow, black, dark, blue, purple, and green chip boxes, you can simply open them and they will give you your origin chips. There are different kinds of boxes outside of that will also give you those. Trust me, you will need plenty of origin chips. There's never enough. New chip random boxes like dual platinum chip boxes, latest color boxes, they all give origin chips. Legion commander chips, however, they do not, as Legion chips are still important to use. Legion chips do still require the same amount of materials used to craft before the update of the new chip system. However, unknown materials are much easier to earn, as dismantling the BB gear that you drop from reverse theater, they give those materials to you. In the first tab called Slot Change, you will have to place in the gear piece you wish to use that's above level 83. You then click on the specific slot you want to open. Just like the old version, chip cost increases with the next slot you open. This is where color drivers come in handy. If you are not happy with the selected slot that you got from RNG, you can use the color driver by selecting slot modification tool on the right and then selecting color driver. Once those two are selected, you will notice a notification that lets you know, please select color to change the bottom of the selected chip slot. Remember that the chip slot has to be empty in order to change its color. You will select the down arrow and choose which color you want specifically for your gear. As for the platinum drivers, you still need a modification tool. Of course, for this one you will not need to choose a specific color, as platinum is already one color itself. For crafting, you have many options, ranging from crafting normal chips to platinum in different tiers. You can craft each item, and each is different in many different ways that require different materials. This can be helpful if you're on a lack of materials or you simply prefer the other option. There's different kinds of chips. I'll go ahead and explain to you what they mean. Normal colored chip. For the first part here, you can see that there are 3 tiers of chips to craft for normal chips. Tier 3 normal chips are actually better than Legion chips. If you want to craft Tier 3 normal chips, you must take the time to craft 1 and 2 for Tier 1. You simply need something called agate fragments, which are simply used for this purpose that's mainly dropped in Ancient Dragon's historic site. Agate fragments are also earned through Item Renovation tab. This tab, of course, as explained in the beginning, allows you to basically exchange old materials that are now useless for the new materials. The old Tiamat materials will now more than likely be exchanged to agate fragments. To make this clear, if you wish to craft a certain tier chip, left click on the one specifically that you want to craft. These regular tier chips also have multiple options on how you want to craft them. Simply click on the right arrow that's shown on the chip. Once you click on it, you'll notice that there are other things you can use for this. The best thing to do is use origin chips for things like the tier 2 chips in order to have enough to craft tier 3 chips. Keep this in mind. I strongly do not recommend to craft tier 2 chips using origin agates. The material is mostly to always scarce. Platinum chips. I want you to be careful when crafting these platinum chips. Getting a tier 3 platinum can be costly, as it can cost you a total of 130 million to get. You will need 20 origin chips for every tier 1 platinum that you'll craft. There is actually no other option for these. In order to craft tier 2, you have to have 5 tier 1 chips crafted. However, in order to get to tier 3, on whichever type you want for platinum, you will need 5 tier 2 chips, which basically tells you that you will need 25 tier 1 chips. Due to this explains why it's so costly to craft tier 3 platinum chips. Be sure to look at each chip before crafting so you know you're not crafting the wrong one. BB chips. Some of you watching may already know what these are. However, for those of you that don't, these chips used to be the best chips outside of platinum chips. Legion chips took forever to craft since the material needed to craft it was only dropped from Beelzebub sides and bosses. However, now ever since this update, you are now able to dismantle the equipment that's dropped from the area and earn unknown materials much faster and easier. Tier 3 normal colored chips are actually slightly better than Legion chips. If you want to aim for perfection, then I suggest to not go with these. I wish you good luck on Legion chips if that's what you wish to go for. Tiamat chips. These are actually important. As you can see here, there are 3 Platinum X chips. These Plat X chips are actually a lot useful than you may think if you're just looking at the stats itself. The Platinum X chips specifically are not the chips you should go for your equipment, but you should use them for leveling your chips up, which is called overclocking. Overclocking will actually be explained in a bit. As for the regular X colored chip that you see here, these will be used for your boost on amplifier. These are a big boost on your TCP as well, so be sure to use these for your specific gear piece. Also remember that each color has different type and as well as a different attack type. As for the very last chip listed here in Tiamat chips, just simply ignore that one as it is not useful for any character or for PvE. Here in this tab is pretty self-explanatory. The adapter section is used to simply place and remove chips in your gear. However, when your chip is leveled up, which again I'll explain in a bit, you will be given a notification on your screen saying that you will have to type in remove chip. If you do all this, the progress in the chip that was leveled up will be gone down to 0 again, which is a reason I strongly suggest to just equip a chip on your gear that you are not using as endgame. Only level it up when you are satisfied with the equipment you have. For this section, you will be leveling up your chips as previously mentioned. When leveling your chips up, I recommend you use the Platinum X chips as they require less material to craft if you were to run out of Origin chips. Not only that, they also cost less, which would end up increasing your level higher than if you were to use Tier 1 or Tier 2 Platinum chips to level it up. You would end up having more Platinum X chips rather than regular Tier Platinum to use as fodder for leveling up your chips. I strongly encourage you to use X Platinum rather than tier chips to level them. Depending on your enhancement level of your specific gear piece, that will determine the max level of your chip you can go up to. For example, if you have a plus 14 gear piece, your chip level will only increase up to plus 14. This is where things come in handy, for players that wish to use a certain tier of a chip and want to increase it to the next tier without losing all of its levels. For example, if you were to have a Tier 1 Platinum or a regular chip that's plus 15, you can use that to transfer over to a Platinum or a regular Tier 2 or 3 chip, but it would decrease depending on the XP that you have on it. Remember that Platinum chips cannot be changed to regular colored chips. Platinum goes with Platinum, colored goes with colored, Legion chip goes with colored chip as well. You will need a few chip protectors for this to work. The chip you had previously before doing all this will disappear, so be careful on your decisions. This would be great for players that wish to use Tier 1 Platinum or 2 for the time being and wish to upgrade it to Tier 3 later on with almost all of its enhancements. Last but not least, this tab had a similar purpose to the Succeed section. However, for this, you are simply transferring over a specific gear piece chips to the other gear piece, with its level decreasing depending on how much XP you have. You have to have empty slots on your other weapon, module, amplifier, or trinkets depending on what gear you're using, that match with the ones that you have on the one you plan to transfer over. No, this does not mean that the chip colors have to be in order, but it does have to match. Also, do not worry, the gear piece you're going to use will not disappear after you successfully transferred it.